Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our digital literacy curricula series, Google Applied Digital Skills. We are excited to be talking about our third and not last but not least, but another resource that we have for digital literacy. Uh, our presenter today is Mary Kate Haverly. She will be giving the honor of presenting this resource to you, everyone, to you today. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat and periodically we'll ask any questions. Um, but yeah, with that, let's get started. Mary Kate.
All right. Thanks, Jose. And again, thank you everyone for joining us on this beautifully sunny winter day, which the sun feels really good. If you sit just close enough to the window, maybe you can trick your brain into thinking it's a little bit warmer out there than it is. But we're going to talk today about Google Applied Digital Skills. Before we do that, as usual, I just want to take a minute in to talk about who we are, if you don't already know. ATDN and Digital ATDN are funded by the state of Connecticut Department of Education to support adult education programs across the state. And that can look like professional learning, instructional coaching, curriculum guidance, or help thinking through digital literacy more broadly, as we're doing today. So, when we talk about tools like Google Applied Digital Skills, today we're always thinking about it through the lens of adult education. So, let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to focus on today. My goal for all of us, and my goal for you, is that by the end of this session, I want you to feel clear about what Google Applied Digital Skills is and where it fits on the digital skills spectrum. Additionally, I want what kind of tasks learners can actually complete when they use it. We're going to take a look at some of those specific things. We're also going to take a look at what the platform looks like today and talk honestly about what additional training might be needed for classroom implementation, which is going to come in a few weeks from now. So again, today is about understanding and orientation and not necessarily setting up that implementation piece yet. So let's jump in. When we talk about the phrase digital literacy, we're not just talking about knowing how to click buttons. Digital literacy includes access, navigation, understanding, application, independence, and eventually the transfer to real life. The end goal is that learners can take what they're doing in class and actually use those skills outside the classroom. And that definition is important because it helps explain why we use the different tools at different points along the way, and ultimately why Google Applied Digital Skills might be a good fit for some of your learners. As you know from our previous work with DART and North Star, learners don't enter any of our programs at the same place, digitally speaking. Some learners need language supported access and additional time to build confidence with just using devices, whereas others are ready for more structured skill development and to benefit from clear benchmarks that can help them verify what they can do. And then there's some learners who are ready to move past the practice. They're ready to apply skills and work more independently and transfer what they're doing into real life tasks. And because learners move through these stages over time, no one single curriculum can meet every need. And that's why we use different tools at different points along the way. So this slide shows how we think about readiness before application. So if you remember back 2 weeks ago, we were discussing the DART curriculum. And DART supports learners who need language supported access. They might need heavy scaffolding and guided practice. And it's really about building their confidence and participation in digital environments. Where then North Star, which we discussed last week, focuses on targeted digital skills. It's focusing on accuracy, consistency, and benchmarks that signal digital readiness. And it also helps confirm that learners can reliably use these core tools. Google Applied Digital Skills then lives after those foundations are in place. So on the right side of the spectrum is where Google Applied Digital Skills fits best. And here the emphasis shifts into context, application, independence, and transfer beyond the classroom. This is where learners start to use digital skills as tools to accomplish real tasks and not just practicing skills in isolation. So when we talk about application here, it helps to think back to North Star. In North Star, learners were often practicing some discrete skills or demonstrating accuracy within a structured activity. But with Google Applied Digital Skills, those same skills show up within a much larger task. So learners aren't just practicing formatting or inserting text. They're using skills to complete something meaningful, like creating a resume or creating a budget or a presentation. So in this context, success isn't just a score or a completed module. Success is going to be a product that learners can actually use outside of the classroom. So it's important to think about that applied doesn't necessarily mean advanced. Applied simply means that skills are being used in context and with purpose. And if we want to kind of zoom in on that idea a little bit more, in more traditional digital skills instruction, learning often starts with a tool. We teach it, we feature it, we practice it, and then we look for ways to apply it. But Google Applied Digital Skills flips that sequence. It's going to start with a purpose or a task. And the digital tools are then introduced as they're needed to complete that task. So because of that, instruction feels much more integrated. It feels more learner paced, and learners are going to move through a task step by step and stay focused on something that they're completing because it's going to feel meaningful rather than maybe that they're just trying to master isolated features. So, and that's an important for setting expectations that Google Applied Digital Skills assumes that learners can hold multiple steps in mind. They can navigate without constant prompting. They can have some digital resilience, right? They can recover from their mistakes and persist through longer tasks. So it's not designed to just teach mouse skills or device basics or foundational navigation. And it doesn't replace any language supported instruction either. But because of that, Google Applied Digital Skills should be introduced once students are able to work more independently or with limited support. All right, so now that we've talked about what Google Applied Digital Skills is asking for learners cognitively, this slide helps us think about how it translates into curriculum choice. Again, we've looked at our digital literacy curriculum guide over the last 2 weeks, and we do have it on our website. But Google Applied Digital Skills is not intended for building foundational access or navigation. Again, if learners are still trying to figure out how to use a mouse or how to move between windows or how to follow very basic on-screen instructions, then Google Applied Digital Skills is going to feel overwhelming rather than helpful. But where it really shines, Google Applied Digital Skills really shines, is once learners can work independently or with limited support. At that point, they're able to follow multiple step instructions or recover from mistakes or stay engaged long enough to complete a meaningful digital task. Then it might be the perfect fit. If we I if we introduce it too early, we might overwhelm the cognitive load, and learners might feel frustrated. They could get stuck, not because the task is hard, but just too many skills are being asked of them all at once. And that's why we emphasize using multiple curricula like DART or North Star to help build their readiness at earlier stages. And then Google Applied Digital Skills fits in later once they are ready to apply what they know in a real life context.
Mary Kate, I know you
Yes,
answered this already. Um, I do wanted to mention it there in case you wanted to add anything else to it.
of course.
So the question goes, how long should students be practicing before beginning Google Applied Digital Skills? Should they all be high level ESL?
I don't necessarily think they all have to um, be high level. Again, if they are showing readiness because they can complete multiple steps, then they're ready to try. Or Google Applied Digital Skills, once we start getting into it a little bit, also would work really well in a group setting. So maybe if they're paired with someone who has a little bit more digital proficiency, then it might be might be an option as well. So I don't necessarily think it has to be something that all have to be ready for. There's definitely some ways, and we'll get into a bit more about how to implement it later on in a couple weeks when we focus on the implementation piece more. Um, and there's several different ways to do it. But we'll look at Google Applied Digital Skills in a little bit. It looks very different from the other two curricula as well. Jose, anything else that you want to throw in regarding that, where you, based on what we had talked about in Dart and North Star, about your thoughts on that question?
So, I mean, quickly, in the previous slide, when you look at the curriculum guide, that first question that comes up is regarding the CASA score. So if a learner has a reading score of 211 or higher, that's more or less like how where we start. So if you have a very low reading score for your learners, a lot of these curriculum are text based. So you have to be reading, you have to know how to access. So sometimes you need to front load some of that before you go to that. And then if your learners are, like Mary Kate was saying, if you're able to follow with multiple tasks or follow steps, at that point, then you could start moving into those higher ones. Only thing I would add would be if you're providing scaffolding or instructions and you're able to get onto the platform, then that's kind of a good place to be in order to be able to engage with the content. But it will depend on your learners. It Some can, some need a little bit more scaffolding. So it just depends on what you're working on as well.
Thank you. If you haven't looked at Google Applied Digital Skills since this summer, maybe if you had attended any of our other trainings in the past few years and we went through it at that point, big changes happened last summer. Um, some were good, some were not. I guess I have my own opinions on what things I would have kept or changed along the way. But there was some major updates last summer. Um, So one thing Google did applied digital skills now is moved into the Google for Education Learning Hub, and that platform is powered in a different way in a different LMS, and it now houses different types of Google learning content. And I think that's ultimately what the change was, to try to keep everything kind of under one tent. With that being said, it now functions very differently. It functions as a content catalog instead of a classroom management system. And it might change how teachers organize learning, but it didn't change the lessons themselves. So that's an important piece to remember. If there was a lesson you were using before, had looked at and liked before, the probability is that lesson is untouched if it's still there. So that being said, we're going to go on to what Google Applied Digital Skills looks like today. What is still the same? Google Applied Digital Skills is still free. It's free. Everything is free, which is amazing, especially nowadays when so many things are behind a paywall. It is still project-based digital skills curriculum and still developed by Google. It is still built around short instructional videos that pair with a real life task. And it's still designed to help learners apply digital skills and not just practice them. So again, it's intended for learners who can work with increasing independence. So, with that being said, we're going to take a look at what the platform actually looks like today. So, this is just a tour. We're going to come back to our slideshow in a little bit, but we're going to explore where the lessons live and how the catalog is organized. Um, but we're not going to necessarily talk about assigning lessons or managing the lessons within a class yet. So with that being said, we're going to flip on over to here. So I, at this point, am already in. I probably should have backed up one more step because I am already in the Google Applied Digital Skills section of the Google for Education LMS. So let me go ahead and I'm going to put this in our
I think
chat.
it's right there. It says all topics right above apply digital skills. Is that what you're looking for?
No, I just wanted to give this link here because
Okay.
if unless you can Google a Google Applied Digital, you can Google it and get here as well. But if you're going through the Google for Education site, it is a little bit more complicated to look for. So I just wanted to make sure that we had this direct link right there for everybody. All right. So since I'm here already, I already landed in the Google Applied Digital Skills site. And if you're familiar what it used to look like, right away, this looks very different. We used to have kind of a search engine feature in which you could um, check off if you were looking for adult ed or high school or whatever level or different content areas. So, and it's harder to do that here. They've pulled out a few different topics, and we also have the option to browse all lessons. So we're going to go ahead and do that just so we can see the entire catalog. And my screen likes to make this very, very small. So I'm going to make that much, much bigger. So from here, it's the entire catalog. It does go alphabetical. We're seeing just the names of the titles that are in alphabetical order. So you may want to start with just searching for a topic. And I always recommend if you're not sure where to start, we're going to start with, I'm going to search for resume. I do find that especially within adult learning, creating a resume in Google Docs is something that everyone may be interested in doing. It's a great way to show some basic digital skills in an applied format. So right away, you can see here, I typed in resume, and we have two different options. And we're going to take a look at this one here, which is the create a resume in Google Docs. You can hear that it's about 45 minutes. We see right away that's 45 minutes. It has 4 stars, so I'm not sure how it's getting its ratings or how many it has. So let's go ahead and dive in and take a look at it. And again, I'm going to make this much bigger. Okay, hopefully that's a little easier to follow. Okay, so right away, once we go ahead and click on it, it's going to give us a lot of different information. We can see here that the Create a Resume in Google Docs is to design, write, and format a professional resume that stands out. That's the goal of this lesson. Its estimated time to complete is 45 to 90 minutes, and audience is high school or middle school. Now, that being said, once a while back, when they did make this change, we used to be able to filter by adult education, and that is no longer available. So you're not going to necessarily see an audience that says adult education. It's going to give you high school, middle school, or elementary. So just know you're not going to necessarily see adult ed, unfortunately. It is going to tell us that it's going to focus on digital tools like Docs, Gmail, and Google Search, and some skills, additional skills that it's going to work on is collaboration, communication, document formatting, and resume writing. And you can see that by the end of this course, you or the learner will be able to select a document template, modify a document template with relevant information and appropriate formatting, identify hard and soft skills that could be included on a resume, and to use active verbs to describe work and extracurricular experiences. As we continue to scroll down, even though this is one lesson, it is broken into sections. And each of these here, you can click on them. They are going to correspond with a video lesson that's going to walk the learner through that specific piece of this overall lesson in creating a resume. So you can go to each of these videos, or it's going to start you at the beginning. At the end, there's going to be a quiz, and there's going to also be some extension activities. Last but not least, there's going to be some teaching materials, and we're going to come back to that because there's a lot of good stuff in those teaching materials as well. If we were going to get started, we can click on the blue button up here to get started. It's going to bring us right into that first introduction lesson. So now that we're here, again, this is the very first step within that 45 to 90-minute lesson in which we're going to be creating our resume. It's going to give us a few different pieces. The best part about the Google Applied Digital Skills curriculum is that it is all video-based lessons. And we have these videos right here. We can make them full screen. They do have some closed captioning options. There's a few other things we can look at in terms of some different language supports. I do think the videos are also, if they're still there, did have a Spanish option as well. But we can play them here, and they're also available to download in the teacher resources. If you do need the transcript, it's available right here on the page. And I don't know if I have my, let me just quickly peek down here, make sure that I have my sound shared, and we can take just a quick peek at what this looks like. And I'll make it a little bit bigger for us.
In this lesson, you will create a professional resume. A resume is a valuable tool that can help you apply for jobs, internships, schools, special programs, apprenticeships, and scholarships. Your resume gives readers a first impression of your background and your qualifications. Resumes should be error-free, easy to read, and provide a snapshot of who you are. Even if you don't plan to apply for a job or college right away, organizing your experiences and qualifications in a resume is a useful step to prepare for any future need. To create your resume, you'll use a template in Google Docs. A template is a starting point for your document that provides a standard layout, design, and format to guide you in creating your resume. Even when using a template, your resume will be unique to you. You will add your own skills, education, and experiences to the template. Your cultural background and identity as a person means that your resume will reflect the individual strengths you have to offer. Once you have a draft of your resume, you'll edit and adjust the format to make it more engaging for potential employers or educators. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to select and use a template in Google Docs, format different sections of a document, and download a document as a specific file type to send in an email. This lesson will be demonstrated in Google Docs, but you could create a resume in any word processing application. To complete this lesson, sign into your Google account. Open a new tab in your browser and go to google.com. If you do not have a Google account, pause the video and create one. Next, navigate to Google Docs. Create a new blank document. You will use this document to list your education and work experiences. So, rename your document Resume Brainstorm. If you'd like, you can use accessibility features within Google Docs, like a screen reader, to make it easier to read. Click on the links next to this video to learn how to use this and other tools. Now, it's your turn. Sign into your Google account. Create a new blank document and title your document Resume Brainstorm.
All right. Holy applied digital skills, Batman. There's a lot going on in just that first introduction video. Where students are being asked to do many things just within that 3-minute video. So this might be a good place to open your chat and just think about, okay, as your students are doing this, where might they get stuck? What digital skills that you see that those 3 minutes went by real fast, that they were asked to do that may cause someone to get stuck or challenged, or might call on some digital resilience?
There is a question in the chat.
Yeah, sure.
Um, excuse me. Is this
Uh,
something we can listen to as a whole group, or will the students have to listen to each part before moving on?
you can absolutely listen to that as a whole group. If you could put that on the screen. You can, I'll show you where you can download each individual video. So if you did want to put that out in some way, if you're using maybe Google Classroom and you wanted to have that uploaded there, you could do that as well. You could send it out as an attachment. There's lots of different options as well. But if you wanted to watch that as a whole class, you absolutely could, either right here in this lesson and full screen, or you can use that as the specific downloader link. Oh, sure. And using a template. Absolutely. And I talked a little bit about a template here as well. So as long as they understand what the template is. As far as just this introduction, we're expecting them to know how to open a new window, to have basic mouse skills, to know how to rename something. If it breezed right by the fact that if you didn't have a Google account, just make one. And quickly showed how to do that, but that could definitely be a whole lesson within itself. Oh, Elizabeth had a good point. Many students will not log out of their Google account, and students won't sign into the account and use someone else's. Absolutely. How do you know if you're in the right account? Perfect. I'm gonna just put our chat aside. Jose, just jump in and yell out if there's anything else that jumps out. So right below, we see very, very basic instructions. Sign into your Google account, create a new blank document, and title it. Those were the three main pieces that we were going to do within that 3-minute video. Although, as we know, the video did give some other instructions along the way. And here are the other pieces that they mentioned, whether use accessibility features or to edit documents with a screen reader. It gave some more instructions on that as well. So why don't we just move all of us right here. When your learner is ready to move on, the next activity right below in the blue button would bring us to the next part of the lesson. And again, to go to the previous one, we have the buttons above and below. If we wanted to go way back to our first page, we had the breadcrumbs up on the top left-hand side. And we also, like I mentioned before, could go through each of them or go directly to them one at a time, just from here as well. And here is the brainstorm, the work experience, and education, the next video in this series. So unfortunately, one of the things that also changed is the ability to track where students are. That was a feature that was you previously had the option to do, and now we don't. You don't have the option to do that. So in terms of implementation, that is just something to keep in mind, is that each of these videos really are more of a stand on their own, or to use as a full class, or students need to be able to work independently and move through the instructions at the same time that they're actually building the resume in a different window. So there is an overview. I saw that. Let's go back to the teaching materials. In my opinion, this is one of the strengths of Google Applied Digital Skills. Again, beyond the videos, there's a lot of good stuff here. So diving right into the lesson plan. This is one of the few things that stayed absolutely the same. And the lesson plan gives you the overview, the objectives, the skill set, additional resources. So if you wanted to take this lesson and then run with it or do other things with it, it does have some additional resources or extension activities. You can go down a bit farther. Content overview is going to, again, look at specific digital skills that are needed. So maybe if knowing your learners, and again, knowing that this is going to be a rather advanced group of learners, you can take a look at that and say, okay, maybe they're ready for this. We can see what digital skills they're going to be doing, and knowing that they need to then apply these digital skills. We can take a look at what they have done in North Star and know if they're ready to do that. You could also, they have some of the key terms and concepts. So if you need to introduce some vocabulary, they have those listed as well. And here is, again, the list of videos. So we can go right to the video. And another thing that's kind of cool is they have a project in progress. So if you wanted to put up what it would look like at that point in the video series, you can see. So we watched the video, the introduction together, and it's sharing an example of what the project would look like after the first video. And we can see there's nothing here, except they did put the new name in the title. So that's also really helpful to not only maybe for yourself to review or to show your students and say, okay, after this video, this is what I'm expecting. You don't necessarily need to be 2 steps ahead and to create something that they can see if you want to be able to show an example. And we can see it continues to build on from there. Video 2 progress. Jose, I saw there was a question just popped up. Anything that where we are in terms of
So the question is, are there suggestions in the lesson plans for having students discuss things like turn and talk?
yes, we can not we'll take a look at it. Let me scroll down about 2 more pages. Again, I mentioned that there is extensions if you want to go on beyond this, whether to formatting or writing a cover letter. There's other videos that are attached to other lessons that you can include if you want to continue, like to extend this. So this is where you may get some ideas. There are some questions here. The during the lesson might be what you were thinking of if you're going to ask guided questions, or you can ask questions and tell them what you want to do with that, turn and talk, etc. But this might be what you're potentially thinking of. So you can use those as maybe in a group conversation, collaboration, brainstorming ideas, prompt students to think about what a resume is used for. Again, that might be a group lesson or an opportunity for them to work collaboratively. And it does prompt you of what to say. It's going to give you some ideas of what to do right off the start, how to check in, how to monitor progress, where you're going to see specific things. So again, this is one of the strengths in the Google Applied Digital Skills curriculum. And again, in terms of wrapping it up or reflecting on the lesson, there's some good stuff there too. Now, there is a quiz. So if you did want to give them a quiz on what they learned here, you can do that. Or again, the project themselves is the goal. The goal of this lesson is for them to create a resume. So if you wanted to just do their assessment based on the project, there is a rubric that Google has created. So you can jump right in with everything that Google has laid out in terms of that lesson. If you wanted to use this, then do know that that is also ready for you as well. All right, and last but not least here, there's a lot of Google gives you a lot of different options for customizing this lesson, whether you need to shorten it, whether you want to extend it, you want to add some supplemental activities along to it, lots of different ideas. I do love that each of these gives maybe different ideas of how to align it. So if you're teaching math or an ELA course, you can extend it, and it's going to give you a few ideas, not too many, but we can see here. Want to align it to your core subject? Try these options. All right. And then as we come to the end, you could see the quiz, which right in here. So it's going to give you a little bit more information about how you might want to use this quiz, whether it be printed or if you wanted to do it in some other way. I'm going to go back again to our teacher. Let's back out of here. And in terms of our teaching materials, that was all of just in the lesson plan. The rubric was linked in the lesson plan. We just looked at that as well. One other piece it has here is the certificate. Like North Star, you have the option of using certificates. Unlike North Star, you're always going to get this blank certificate that you have to fill in yourself. So every one of the Google Applied Digital Skills has has this blank certificate at the end of it. So it's not going to populate with names or any specific lessons. Once you download it, you have it and you can use it as you wish. And if you did want, oh, that says no thank you. Okay, well, it didn't say no thank you last week, so we'll see what that's about. Okay, well, I guess the option to download all videos is not currently available. So, okay, we'll check back on that one, but
Do you have to be logged in to access it?
it's possible. And I am not logged in as we see up there. All right. Any other questions on Google Applied Digital Skills at this point?
So these skills that they're working on,
Mm-hmm.
when they do these certificates, it's not like Nordstar. They're not going to be able to upload them to their, I guess their resume, like if they're on Indeed.com. These things will not connect.
Correct. Okay. This itself is simply a document really for your use, I would say, and how you would want to use that, if you would want to use that, if that's going to be something that's helpful. It is something that they kept in here. Again, with one of the many changes that happened. I don't think actually this part changed. I know the quiz feature has changed. How you can track it definitely changed. In my opinion, when it did make the change in the last summer, it's far more almost hands off, or at least Google's digital hands off, is they pretty much said, okay, here's all of the resources that we have. Go do with this what you wish. And kind of all of the back end tracking and implementation into other LMS, like using a Google Classroom, or they had their own tracker right within Google Applied Digital Skills before, which was kind of cool. All of that disappeared. So now it's really just the resources themselves, and it's up to the educators to think about how they want to best still use those pieces. So unfortunately, no, the certificate part, which I know is such a carrot and is such a wonderful feature of North Star, is not as powerful necessarily. But that being said, the products themselves, hopefully the process of completing the resume and having a resume that then can be used for finding a job, for additional educational opportunities. The hope is that then, that is the more powerful piece of it all. They have something to show for it that would be beyond
And
a
yes,
certificate.
that is 100% true if you're going with our GED classes and our ESL classes. But then we also do our credit diploma classes, which if they don't have like a thing that just connects for them, it's not as
Mhm.
enticing for them to do the work.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep, and that's definitely one of the drawbacks. And I'm going to be very honest, and Jose will back me up on this, is that once the changes are made, then I crinkled my nose at some of these changes a bit here, and I was not necessarily a fan of it. But again, it puts a little bit more emphasis on the application piece and how educators across different subject areas, across grade levels, across everything, can figure out how they want to use the pieces and put them together themselves. But a lot of the powerful back end pieces are missing that we used to have. That might have helped entice learners along the way when they could see their progress a bit more um, specifically. Any other thoughts, comments, suggestions? I know that a few things in chat which I wasn't looking at. Alan, so no, you don't create an account for each student. There is the expectation that they do have their own Google account, at least in some of these. I chose obviously the resume one where it's asking them to log in. Um, Previously, in the old version of Google Applied Digital Skills, is that they did have to have a linked account with their teacher, which is how we tracked it. We're not doing that anymore. They, if you would like to use this with Microsoft Word, potentially, is it could maybe some of the videos would be applicable. It was showing how to use it in Docs, but maybe you could use it in Word instead. Um, so again, it's giving you a little bit of that flexibility if you just wanted to show the process or how it might look like in a step-by-step way. But no, you don't necessarily have to create an account in the way that we used to do it. Each of these videos is going to, though, assume that students do have a Google account. Are there any topics that would be popular or unpopular with students? Yeah, there's a lot there. And I'm sure that some are going to be more popular than others. Again, I chose to create a resume as adult learners, or most adults. We all know that we've needed a resume along the way. So that's when I would say is a bit more of popular and why I keep coming back to it. If you're looking for more entry level skills in terms of the whole spectrum of applied digital skills here, I would say that there are going to be, go to all lessons. And again, I'm sorry, I'm not screen sharing anymore. Let me go back and do that. I'm back to all of our lessons here.
Just also wondering, because if it were me, I would choose some that they really like or seem popular or kind of get some energy to maybe to do first or to offset with some that might not be as popular.
Mhm.
So yeah, just is there any you've come across?
But they're so diverse in terms of their topics. So right here, just in the A's, avoid online scams. That might be for some reason that's something that's come up that would be popular at the time. Um, and we can keep scrolling through. There are going to be there's something for everything. Create a budget in Google Sheets, and then there's going to be code a joke telling talk bot. So we're really, it's going to be such a diverse group of lessons that we see. And there are some, if you are just interested in a very basic using Docs or getting started in Google Docs, that's an option that is in here as well. So there are a lot to look through. If you had a favorite, it may not still be here. We did find that Google Applied Digital Skills did get rid of a few things. We had aligned this, or really everything, Dart, Google Applied Digital Skills, and North Star to standards. That's the one thing that you're going to see is that when we looked through those lessons, it didn't say specifically what standards it's aligned to, although so we had done that previously, and we did notice that there was a lot of lessons that were missing. So I would hesitate to say which ones are going to be more popular than others because I do think that there are some that are kind of out there, maybe that wouldn't necessarily be maybe applicable to what you're doing in adult ed, but I don't know. So here's a Gmail for beginners. Again, that's maybe an introductory one. Right. Yep, screenshot all of the topics. Yes, I'm going to go back to that. When I was not paying attention to my screen share, what I had gone here to topics, we could see that applied digital skills was right in there. And here's all the topics. So if we wanted to go specifically to, let's say, college readiness, then you're going to see some of the topics that they have organized there. And again, in a couple weeks when we come back to this, we're going to talk a bit more and strategize a bit more of how this might work best in your classes. This was really just again a look at what Google Applied Digital Skills looks like today, what has changed, what's still good, the good, bad, and indifferent parts about it. And then we'll dive into a bit more about maybe how some strategies of using this. All right. So
I'll
with that,
give you a little I'm fooled with random information. So one of the things we had 131 lessons that were aligned with the old version of this. That went down to 56. So a lot of that fun stuff that was mentioned here, you could see like if you were doing a party and you needed to organize like on a spreadsheet, those kind of things. What you see now is more like I don't want to call it a grown-up version of it, but it's more like in context. So, going through the courses themselves, you'll see like I put a couple examples there, which the like direct links for those areas, but you'll see more in moving forward into those I was trying to think the other one that I was looking at. Um like prepare for your first job, which again goes in with what Mary Kate was talking about. But you don't see a lot of that other different options, which kind of it kept growing the resources due to everything was happening with shutdown and you had like different versions of the same skill but in a different context. So again, so that's what we're continuing to working on and keep an eye on everything that's coming up. So as it continues to grow, we'll continue to align.
thank you, Jose. All right. So with that being said, in our last 5 minutes, I think what we'll do is just take questions. If you have any, if there's anything else that you wanted to look at again. Um, and if you have any thoughts on where you would like to see us pick up from here when we revisit the implementation piece, please feel free to let us know that as well. If there's anything that you would like to look at earlier, you're always welcome to make time for an implementation session and tech support session. We would love to sit and think about that with you and plan that out with you. But we will again come back to this in a couple weeks.